Anyone have any questions? Yes?
Lawrence, I understand, I guess, why you would talk about the detectors being ineffective, but did you pause at all to think about making that so widely known that there's no way to protect the courts?
There's nothing in this movie that is information that you can't find anywhere on the internet. So there's nothing in this movie that anyone can't figure out by going to a library or on the internet. So you can ask that about other things too, and so that would be my answer. Yes?
Part of what's so extraordinary about this is your access to a lot of the principles in the last 50 years of nuclear weapons proliferation. Did you come across anybody who was defending things the way they are now?
There are some for sure, but you know what? What's fantastic is some people are not in the movie. Like for instance, George Shultz, who spoke in Paris for the keynote address, spoke about taking weapons to zero. There's just so you know that there's a 20-year plan right now. There's a group called Global Zero, and they're led by Rick Burt and 23 other experts. Rick Burt was a chief arms negotiator under Bush 1 for the START Treaty, conservative, a Republican, and so him and a bunch of other very important kind of specialists come up with a 20-year plan to get to zero. And you can see Secretary Baker and many other conservatives very much feel this not only should be done, needs to be done. But yes, there are those, of course, on both sides.
So it's ironic to see the movie today because today there was a huge rally in Tehran, and Ahmadinejad talked about the fact that they're enriching uranium and they're ready to build a bomb. So this paradigm is a Cold War sort of paradigm. But what are your thoughts on what do we do today in the world of asymmetric war with this specific sort of threat in mind?
Probably a good question for Valerie.
It was pointed out in the film that it's been 20 years since the end of the Cold War, and we're still locked in this mutual assured destruction, this mad theory of a defensive posture, and that's no longer a defensible way to proceed. And so, absolutely, what the film points out are these three strands of coming together, and the genie is out of the bottle, but you have to start someplace. And I'm of the view, which has changed actually, when I worked for the CIA, I worked on counterproliferation, primarily nuclear terrorism, that nexus, and I thought that was it. But I do have a much broader view of that now. And I'm of the view now that you just have to drain the swamp. You know, you completely have to remove that as a possibility. It's not easy, it's going to be a process, it's a step-by-step thing, but you have to start somewhere. And there's a contingent in Congress, hardcore hawks that believe the only way that we will preserve our national security is to continuing to maintain the arsenal we have. So it's going to take everyone here and your social networks that we all learned about today in TED to make those changes.
What was what drove the Reagan-Gorbachev initiative off the tracks?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
It's called the military-industrial complex.
But did it happen right away, then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just too much resistance to overcome.
Is this film going to be available to people to show, like, the base or like Inconvenient Truth?
Yes, the movie's going to be released actually tomorrow. We're going to make a big announcement that they sold the movie to a big distributor, and so we just have to lock in what date we're going to release the movie. And just like Inconvenient Truth, we're going to rely on everybody to get the word out, and fill the movie theaters, and hopefully like that we'll have the ability to cause a tipping point in the conversation. This year's a big year. There's a lot going on in nuclear weapons with the president, Russia, nuclear threat review, and so there's actually a chance with the movie coming out and people's support to actually make a real difference in legislation and worldwide legislation. So.
And in the meantime, as it said right at the end of the movie, and as Jim Burke said when we started, we have a function where you can text the word 0 to 44144, or go to takepart.com/countdown-to-zero to get information about the film and screenings and what we can all do as we begin to build the social action campaign around the film.
Yes.
The beginning of the movie highlighted the real risk of the loose nuclear materials of the former Soviet Union, but I didn't see as much about what, I know there's some initiatives to do things about that, or what can we do about that?
There's Mel Luger, and there's Luger.
Yeah.
But there was a lot being done under Clinton, some under Bush, about buying that loose nuclear material.
Someone asked me a good question today. There was a presentation that it would cost like $10.8 billion to buy out all the 27 million people enslaved around the world. And, you know, it's the amount we spend on, apparently, chips and pretzels in a year. Someone asked, well, is there an equivalent number to buy out all the loose material? Just go, and that's exactly what Sam Nunn and his group is doing. They are going to the former Soviet republics, buying up this material. You know, a lot of the extremists out there, the terrorists that the film points out, they're clearly not motivated by financial gain, but there's, you know, the car mechanic is, and you know, you buy this stuff off the market. I think that'd be a great number to find out. How much would it cost to buy up all the loose material?
And one of the interesting things is some of the Russian material that the U.S. has bought has actually been used to power U.S. nuclear plants. So, you know, there's actually a use for this stuff if you can actually secure it.
So, Valerie, if Pakistan ends up in the hands of the Taliban sympathizers, as half the military is already, how do we secure those nuclear weapons from falling into the hands of them? Especially with this discussion now of the good Taliban and the bad Taliban, because we want to get out of there.
I agree with Joe's assessment in the film that, for my money, the most dangerous place in the world is Pakistan because it is so volatile and you have so many elements. I can say that back in the day when I was working at the CIA, we worked very hard at trying to run operations that would prevent worst-case scenarios. But since then, Pakistan has devolved further into chaos. And you know, it's got to be a several-point strategy. It's not just diplomacy, but it's an international. You know, you have to come at it from all different angles.
But we don't have the support of China, unfortunately.
No.
China is a proliferator.
Yes, they are. I mean, that's where a lot of the material is being manufactured. You know, very sophisticated material. Then that is being sold around the world. The highest buyer.